Joining me live from the United Kingdom this morning is Mr. Adedoyin. He's the CEO, PSJ UK. PSJ UK is a non-profit organization that seeks to promote peace building, social justice, and sustainable development in Nigeria and other parts of the world. PSJ engages and organizes a global network of partners to act as a voice for marginalized communities and to create a model for active community advocacy for minority groups. PSJ UK is dedicated to promoting peace, social justice, and human rights in Nigeria. Mr. Adedoyin, good morning to you. Okay, now, good to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you.
All right. You are the CEO of PSJ UK, and your body, the organization, has been doing so much for the people of Benue, Plateau, and other parts of the country where they have had security challenges. Now, could you briefly explain the role of your organization in amplifying the voices of marginalized communities affected by insecurity in Nigeria and beyond?
Yes, thank you. Good morning. The PSJ UK is primarily seeking to mobilize the massive Nigerian diaspora to contribute our voices to these issues that you are discussing. We're recognizing the fact that the people in these marginalized communities are truly voiceless. And it is only occasionally that these things hit the headlines. Some of the challenges that you are seeing that are hit the headlines this morning, this couple of days in Benue State, has been happening quite regularly. But it is only because it has hit the headline that, like you said, IGP is deploying tactical team. The president is visiting Benue. So is he going to visit Plateau tomorrow? Is he going to visit another part of the Middle Belt or the Northeast or the Northwest every single day for there to be a resolution? No, this requires all of us. We have to raise our voices collectively. Both Nigerians, friends of Nigeria. The first responsibility of any government, whether it's federal government or state government, is to protect its people. And if the government cannot do that, then it should cease to be the government. Let people who can protect people rise up and take that role. And if the government is for the people, then the people have to demand that, no, we want to be alive, whether in the rural parts of Benue, Plateau, or anywhere else, or even in the urban parts. It's nice and easy to sit in a place and feel comfortable that, oh, something's happening somewhere else, as though that thing is not creeping closer and closer towards where you are. So PSJ UK is saying that Nigerians abroad also have to add their voice to this discourse.
Okay, now, how has PSJ UK been involved in recent cases of violence in Plateau and Benue State, especially on the recent killing, the massacre that happened a few days ago?
Well, first thing to note is that we have a network of representatives in the grassroots across these states, across various states of Nigeria. So we're not necessarily dependent or relying on information that comes from government sources or indeed that comes from the media headlines, because they are not necessarily all accurate. And what we're saying is, or what we're doing, is taking that information that we are receiving from the grassroots and using it to engage the apparatus of state, the powers that be, but also using it to inform ourselves so that we are targeting our interventions appropriately. In addition to that, we're also recognizing that we have a role to play in providing succor to people who are affected by this crisis. And so we do the little that we can. Unfortunately, the crisis is running and outpacing our little efforts. So we're looking to strengthen our efforts so that we can have greater impact.
Okay, and now from your engagement with these communities, how would you assess the government's response to their plight?
Not very excited about the government's response because I'm not fully aware of the government's response. The strategic comms around what is happening or not happening is not great. It's only because the young people poured out onto the roads, blocked the roads between Makurdi and Naka, that all of a sudden you are having the president canceling his schedule. What really should happen is that there should be regular briefings, not saying that you should divulge sensitive information that should not be in the public domain, but there is information that needs to be given to ensure that the people remain assured, remain calm, know that things are being tackled and dealt with appropriately. What we're seeing is a lot of reaction, reactive. It almost seems as though we're not a police force, or we don't have a police force, we have a reaction force. Something has happened, then we came, then we're issuing statements, we're issuing threats. What really should happen is the government should treat this as a war and take appropriate action and measures as a war. 200 people killed in Benue State, much more than the number of people that were killed in the current ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran, where fighter jets, ballistic missiles are involved. The number of casualties is nowhere near the swathes of people that are being wasted all over our lands. And so the response of government is far from adequate, in my opinion.
All right, what major policy gap have you identified in how insecurity is being handled in relation to minority communities in the country?
Well, I mean, the first thing to say is that this thing is much more than just minority community. Yes, it is. The attacks are predominantly on rural populations, but like I said, that is inching closer and closer. So if we continue to look at it as something that is happening to some minorities somewhere, we're not giving it the appropriate amount of attention. But the policy changes that are required are some of the things I've mentioned. Much better strategic comms coming out of our governments at state level, at central level. Creating a proper war footing is particularly important. Talking about the middle belt being the food basket of Nigeria, policy intervention should include how is it that we're not going to have all of our farmers displaced into urban centers looking for handouts when they should be farming to feed the nation. So these are the sort of areas that we are particularly advocating on from a policy perspective.
All right, how you have engaged these people, you know what exactly is going on in Benue State as we speak. And then I want to ask you, how are they coping or resisting the current wave of displacement in that part of the country?
Not adequately, because they're not being resolved. Because as a people, we are not really providing as much assistance to our fellow human beings. So, of course, they're doing the best that they can, moving from one place to the other, but the level of help and resistance, the intervention from the state emergency, or indeed the federal national emergency, is woefully inadequate. We're leaving human beings to their own fate, and it most certainly is not good enough. Like I said, the hallmarks of a decent society is how we look after fellow human beings, and the amount of support for these IDPs is ridiculous.
All right. Talking about advocacy in that part of the country, which is what you do predominantly, I want to talk about recently, protesters came out and then the way they were dispersed by the police force. How do you cope as regards advocacy in that part of the country? And of course, what reports do you have about people going out there to sensitize the people as regards the current situation and how to navigate around it?
Yeah, the reaction of the police of somehow or the other finding themselves in numbers and being available to disperse protesters and protest crowds, the optics of it is terrible. The police should really be strategically creating an enclave and protecting the people. When they come out to protest, we should be supporting them to raise their voice in a peaceful manner. But in terms of the advocacy, we need to even notch up the volume of our voices. It's not just about some people carrying tree branches and protesting on the roads. The various forms of advocacy, like you are doing right now with the media, is very important. We need to ensure that this becomes a priority topic. And that's one of the things that PSJ UK is committed to. We recognize that we live in a global village now. We recognize that what happens in one part of the nation or one part of the world affects people and activities elsewhere. Even the war in Iran and Israel right now is affecting us in Nigeria, is affecting us in Europe. And so our advocacy is to push the case that peace is so much better than war. These attacks, by whatever name we choose to call it, certainly terrorism, must not be allowed for a nation that is growing and seeks to take his place as a leader in economic prosperity. For the benefit of our teeming young people, we really do need to do a lot more.
Okay, now, talking about the current situation, and over time, it hasn't really been clear if perpetrators of any of these heinous acts have been brought to book. Now, how does lack of accountability affect trust in the system?
It totally eradicates it. The impunity, the absence of the rule of law, the absence of justice totally eradicates that trust. And it's unfortunate that we've not quite learned how to use our collective voices progressively. Because the same cycle just keeps coming round and around. And then we're going to hit another election cycle. People are going to give us Indomie and supposed stomach infrastructure. Well, if you're not alive, you're not going to have the stomach to receive the infrastructure. This cycle is carrying on, and we really have to come together as a collective to stop it.
All right, what kind of platforms or channels exist for these marginalized groups to voice their pain and influence decision making? I mean that PSG has provided for them, PSG UK.
Yeah, I mean the PSG UK has actually provided a platform for people to be able to share their stories via our website. But I assure you that it's not the person who is being attacked and macheted, burnt in their houses, that their first priority is, oh, how do I know? How do I find your TV channel? How do I know where your platform is to go and raise my voice? And so what we're beginning to do is send our grassroots networks to go to the people, capture the realities of their stories. It is only the reality that helps us to unsear our hearts. Because unfortunately, as Nigerians, our hearts have been seared. Yes, I understand there's a lot of things happening all over the place, and there's hunger and everything happening all together. But unfortunately, it has meant that our hearts have been seared. But what we have to do is we have to strengthen our numbers, go to where the people are, provide them shelter, provide them succor, provide them enclave, help them to capture their stories so that the rest of the nation and the rest of the world can really, really understand the magnitude of what is going on here. And PSJ is beginning to do more of that, but we will be able to do it all the more when people come on board, lend their skills, lend their talents, lend their abilities to join this effort. We cannot just sit down and be waiting that, oh, some government somewhere is going to figure out exactly what's going to happen. Who is the government? Is it not the same us? It's the same people that form the government. So you, wherever you are, need to ask yourself, what is it that you can do? And we would invite you, come and get involved. Sign up on our website, www.psjuk.org. We're certainly speaking to those who are in the diaspora, in the UK particularly, and asking you to get involved. But at the same time, we're also speaking to Nigerians in Nigeria. I think we have lots of Nigerians who are based in Nigeria who are working for peace and social justice off our platforms. So we're inviting people to sign up, get involved. Together, we are so much stronger.
All right, before we wrap up this segment on the show, I want to ask you this. The last administration under President Muhammadu Buhari then introduced a policy where repentant bandits were rehabilitated and reintegrated back into the society. What's your take on this?
Well, I mean, the general concept of forgiveness, repentance, reintegration, most certainly is a concept you would expect as a pastor that I'm fully aligned with. However, it must not be a shooting of ourselves in the foot. How repentant are they? How strong is our reintegration practices and processes and programs? In a scenario where you have truly de-radicalized people who really did not have a choice but get involved in these programs, where that is happening, in principle, it has sense. But if you were to ask me directly, how much confidence do I have in the program that we have deployed so far? I would say zero confidence. I somehow suspect that we are wasting money in supposed de-radicalization programs and recycling the same people back into doing more radical atrocities. Because otherwise, back to my statement on strategic comps, the fruits and benefits of these DDR programs really should have been presented to us by now.
Okay, now let me ask you this before we go. Basically, your advice for the federal government and state governments in these affected areas and the people of Benue and Plateau State, people of, who have been affected by insecurity in the country on how to navigate through this tough time.
Well, the people of Ukraine know that they are poor and they are responding appropriately. The people of Gaza, the people of Israel, the people in the Middle East, they understand that they are on a war footing and are taking the appropriate actions, whichever side of the fence they are. My advice to the federal government is to understand that we are at war for the future of our nation. And for any government that is genuinely interested in the life and livelihoods and welfare of its people, the government must rise up, put the nation on a war footing, against insecurity, injustice, impunity, instability, and lack of peace. Only then shall we be able to move towards economic prosperity, which we all desire as well.
Thank you for being a part of the show this morning. Good to
Thank
have
you
you
very
on the
much
show.
for having me on.
We do hope next time we'll call you to discuss further on this topic. You'll be here.
Many thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, I have had with me on the show this morning, Adedoyin, the CEO, PSG UK. PSG UK is a non-profit organization that seeks to promote peace building, social justice, and sustainable development in Nigeria and other parts of the world. PSG engages and organizes a global network of partners to act as a voice for marginalized communities and create a model for active community advocacy for minority groups. They are dedicated to promoting peace, social justice, and human rights in Nigeria.